All right, thank you very much, Veli. And indeed, ladies and gentlemen, let's hop into this final match of the day. We've got Mirage going up against Beast Coast. Mirage, obviously, with some respectable scorelines so far this season, but Beast Coast has been struggling to a massive degree, and we're going to have to hope that they can make a good effort today against Mirage. Isn't that right, Stokes?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think you can say the same about both. John, I am not in the business of sugarcoating things. It's bad for your diet, number one. And secondly, both of these teams have not done very well in the last 9 maps. Mirage, only 2 wins, and Beast Coast with only 1 win. We'll have to see how it goes, but both of these teams are looking for improvement.
Well, as usual, we have our community poll for this matchup. Dream is one of the most undisputed R6 NAL bomb plants for stats here in the side of the NAL. We want to know from you guys at home, will Jay be able to surpass Dream in this game by getting more plants than them? Go ahead and let us know, whether that's here in the Twitch chat, over at our Twitter account, at R6esportsNA, and there you go, there's the poll in front of you guys now, or on one of the other many social platforms you can submit your vote. Well, the results after the game with Veli and the rest of the desk to see if you guys were right or not. Wait for that, though. We can talk more about this matchup, and once again, where both of these teams have had a rough stage so far here in Stage 3. Mirage, Jesse made a good point on the desk earlier, though. Mirage has had a very, very tough run just in terms of the teams that they have been going up against, though, and this is going to be the first reprieve from that to a slight extent as they go up against someone who is a little bit more on their own level in terms of reputation, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to be very, very happy about this as well, because the earlier run in Stage 3 was just not a good time. It was SSG into Oxygen into Dark Zero, and finally they got a reprieve with Xset, which they took 7-5. So more than likely happy to be playing up against Beast Coast today. But, I mean, does Beast Coast have what it takes to do what we saw earlier on against Xset, where we saw Alec pop off? We'll have to see, but luckily enough, we got an aggressive map to figure it out between these two. It's Chalet with Mirage versus Beast Coast. Let's get right into it.
Beast Coast as well, not the easiest start to this season. They did take a win against Xset 7-4, but have dropped both of their games since then 7-1 to both Oxygen and TSM. Hopefully going to be able to improve that average scoreline just a little bit here in today's matchup for the reasons that we already mentioned. Getting into the bans, though, nothing too crazy to start things off. Just going to see Thatcher removed, as you guys at home should kind of know that that's going to happen in pretty much every match or most matches at this point. We don't need to explain that too heavily. Flores, though, going to come in for the second one. Makes perfect sense. We've been seeing Flores used specifically on this map, but across the pool in general, to deal with utility setups, and he does it quite well. So banning him is a pretty sane choice, in my opinion.
And Kaid going to come in as well. Just more of a respect ban, just like we had inside of our last game. Thatcher's banned, you want to remove Kaid because he's difficult to try and get rid of without that. Valkyrie's also going to go to the wayside, so that is going to complete our bans here. As that one's pretty self-explanatory, but it should make for a pretty fun Chalet overall. Lots of weapons still out and on the board for people to use, and operators alike. So let's get right into it. Beast Coast is going to be handling our offense, folks. Mirage will be handling our defense, and out of all sites to go to first, Mirage feels most confident about the basement.
So we'll see if that's going to pan out, because that's not what we usually expect a team to go towards right on round number 1 of Chalet here. This site oftentimes being quite brutal to defensive setups, but clearly Mirage thinks differently as they're going to dive right into that. Also bringing the Thunderbird out as well here. We've been seeing her used more and more by quite a few of our NAL teams and across the global division in general. I think this will be the second or third team to bring her out now.
Yes, indeed. We actually were seeing her for a little bit there from the Sonics on Coastline, specifically inside of the vase position, but not too much more outside of that. I believe we saw her one time inside of Double Bar as well, but I could be wrong. Either way, when it comes to Chalet in this basement site, it's actually sitting pretty high inside of the list currently. Originally, this was actually the worst site across all of Chalet for a better half of a year, but right now it's actually looking to be the second best inside of North America. Kitchen Dining currently sitting at a 75% win rate. The basement actually had a 50% win rate. The bar gaming section 45, and then get this, folks, Master Office and NA 0% win rate with 6 plays. And that's the one that stands out the most. Yeah, because it used to be the primary site, the one that we saw people going to every single time that they got a chance, and it's been changing up quite a bit. And that's more than likely due to the way that teams have been playing this game, with it obviously being the first site choice for a lot of people. A lot of people worked on perfecting that attack, and we've been seeing that time and time again when people go here, is that it's really well rehearsed, and it's difficult for these defenses to try and get around that offensive outlook. But luckily enough, folks, we're about 30 seconds into the action phase. Luckily enough as well, not too much has got on. They'll be breaking up the wall here from main garage inside of Snowmobile. Mirage still has quite a few outliers out and about.
Yep, snowmobile open and available now for Beast Coast to use to get into the site with, but they seem to have a much lengthier checklist than that of things they want to try and take care of, most notably over here towards library, where there's not any active defense in the library area itself, but down below it, we can see Thomas and loading also closer to the blue stairs here. Essentially going to try and cause some problems against the Execute. Speaking of said Execute, though, Sippin moving himself forward with a gun that we saw quite a bit of work done with in the previous match. To try and take on that very same role. Already opening up the castle barricade and reinforced blue, and apparently that call was not given out by Nyx, or it was missed by Thomas on the retreat. As Sippin has no problem dispatching of Thomas when he tries to fall back to group up with, I believe, what was going to be the dining room hold, but now nothing, as he's gone down on the ground, and Beast Coast take the first kill outright.
This is slowly going to ramp up here for Beast Coast, especially with Alec having this hologram. He'll get some very serious info, trying to affect what the offense can do here. This is going to force Nyx back, as he'll be forced actually much farther back than I initially thought. He'll work his way all the way back into kitchen. Has a panel for his dining here, so he'll be able to bust open that right-hand side and start trying to use those angles out towards fire. But this is just to try and slow up Beast Coast and their overall take, especially towards this lobby space. He wants to make sure that they can't start to abuse this verticality around this area, so he's going to try and stick here for some time. As for Beast Coast, though, still got a lot to deal with, especially with these Mirage members out and about.
50 seconds left, though, so Beast Coast do need to speed this up, even though they do have the advantage right now. They need to clear things out. Alec is going to be able to catch the movement, but at the same time, the opponent catches him. Benji nearly taking down Alec, but instead going to say bye-bye with a going 6. Nyx will find an exchange elsewhere on the map, however, and is quickly going to put himself into a basement position after catching that player closer over here towards Trophy. As things go down to a 4v3. Favored for Beast Coast as they're looking to make their way in here with limited time.
Oh no, gonna have an overswing from Dream. He'll get gunned down, and the rest of Beast Coast simply flooding into the site. Very well done from them as they simply take things over from the closet space, just walk into the connector there, start landing their shots. Either way, though, Beast Coast will hit that first round and get in pretty convincing fashion, although Mirage still had a lot to say when it came to those dying moments. The upstairs roam really not working out for them. Nyx able to get away with some, but when he came back to site, it really didn't matter. Beast Coast just overwhelmed things through blue, as well as that connector drop. And we're going to move quickly into round 2.
Well, for Mirage, they're going to live and die by the stats you mentioned before about where the sites were being won, and they're just going to shift over to kitchen and dining, which is the one with better odds for the defenders here, to see if that will obviously favor them a little bit more. Just statistically, it will, but as you see on that last site there, Beast Coast does not have much of a problem clearing out the early roam setup, specifically detailed around the blue stairs and library positions, and then collapse onto the site. Still with a good amount of time left in the bank after all things were considered as well, with about 20 seconds remaining when the round closed out. Some great stuff from Beast Coast there, capitalizing upon a bit of a weaker setup, able to tear that apart, and then inside of the 4v3, closing things down due to one of the members of Mirage overcommitting just a tad to that fight, and ultimately being the thing that starts to collapse the chain of dominoes that gives Beast Coast the round. See if it'll be a bit better for Mirage this time. There is going to be an upstairs defense mounted more directly over here just outside of office and piano. We can see that now being set up for Benji, and he's not going to be the only one here. Nyx also in the area. Unsure if they're going to stick around just as of yet, but yeah, we are going to get that commitment to the inside of office as well from loading. So this will be a pretty hefty setup in the usual defense of the top rooms here. Try and avoid East Coast opening up the whole gallery of frags for themselves if they are to take control of it.
All right, so early beginnings here for Beast Coast. Not too much of a change up inside of their lineup either. So they will be reassessing the building, looking for their second round right now. Some early damage off onto Nyx as well. He's playing in quite the pivotal position currently right now, but it could be quite the pickle later on as well. So he's going to leave this space as he really doesn't have the utility in order to play it in the first place. Just stuck around to see if anybody was going to swing in, and obviously that's not going to be the case. As for Mirage, need to be attentive to this top hold and make sure that they can hold onto this control for as long as possible. This is going to be one of the main areas that Beast Coast want to get a hold of and start using Anthony's hammer to break up that floor and really apply that pressure to Mirage's deeper anchors inside of sight.
So we are going to see Benji continuing to maintain his position outside of library to fend off any Beast Coast aggression, but getting out of that first minute of the round, Beast Coast are going to start to put some pressure onto the setup, and apparently so will Mirage. Thomas the first to strike back here as he catches Alec and removes the Yana from play. That's a lot of potential aggressive intel now gone from the Beast Coast roster. The good news is still rolling with 8 drones on the count, so they're not going to be at any lack for it, but someone else will have to do that work now and take away what they would otherwise be able to do and focus on the actual execute here. So coming in, final minute and a half Mirage still patiently waiting for their upstairs positions to be flushed out, but beastcoast not putting a lot of pressure in that department just as of yet. Sippin has moved in and taken Solarium control, and he'll be grouped up with a few other teammates to do that as well. This will be the tool they use to get down, at minimum, into Trophy, but still a lot of work needed to transition out of there and further into Kitchen, where they can actually get the plant going for themselves. This isn't even to mention Nyx's position in the basement as well. A lot of facets need to be taken care of here. The only potential good news right now for beastcoast is going to be the fact that Mirage are incredibly split up amongst their player count. Looking at the silhouettes right now, there is not a lot of tradable support going on, so in the event beastcoast finds someone, it's going to be very unlikely that Mirage are able to actually trade it out a few moments later, meaning that these advantages will more than likely stick when they can finally get it. Speaking of which, there we go. The first kill going to be found here from Jay. Nyx will look to trade that out still at the front lobby, but they're aware of his presence here. Sippin will take care of him. Benji finally exchanges and evens out the numbers back down to a 3v3, but Sippin continuing to move forward here. Once again, the Zofia far too strong, and specifically that LMGE is far too strong. Sippin gets another one. The plant's going to go down, and Bozo cleans up on loading before he can have any contribution from the upstairs retake, giving the round over to our attackers here, leaving them in control of the situation as we get ourselves into apparently what's going to be a much more intense game at the end of the day. beastcoast here leading 2-0 on the attack against Mirage, as they are failing outright to pick up any of these defensive rounds, and beastcoast are giving the fans at home a show at a minimum. Mirage, though, thinking that that one was close enough, and I would generally agree, is going to go back into the kitchen and dining defense for at least one more try at this before they more than likely move on the next round. Operator lineup is going to remain fairly similar as well. We will see a change for loading, though, as he'll bring the Womai into the mix.
Locate and defuse bombs.
As we take a look once again, the setup coming out shouldn't be too much changing in the overall pace there, just because Mirage are bringing a lot of the same flavor of operators to the table. So we're going to see a lot of that translate over pretty much directly from the previous round here. A lot of the mistakes that were made, again, were made in those final dying moments of the round, with players just finding themselves getting picked off, and once again, Mirage not able to maintain their site setup as beastcoast battles their way through it, and specifically cannot stop Sippin on the Zofia, as she's able to rotate in for multiple frags inside of that one. So some great work coming out from Sippin and the rest of beastcoast to keep this attacking side well under their control.
5 seconds left.
All right, well, round 3 right around the corner as Mirage have everything set up inside of the building. Tommy, some pretty unique things going on inside of Library, but this is looking more like a fallback strat more than anything. Benji's going to add some reinforcements to the list as well. We're going to have the Thunderbird out and about yet again here, too, so good to be seeing her get back-to-back play throughout this game, and obviously excited about that as she's come back in.
Yeah, seems to be something that's going to be remaining consistent here for Mirage throughout at least, obviously, for just this half here, as they'll be trying to use her quite a bit to activate their own aggressive potential. So far, it hasn't really been working out in the way they've wanted to. And I would say this is kind of overall for Thunderbird here. I haven't really seen a team able to use her in the way that they would be able to like to, which is kind of boosting the aggressive tendencies of the more out-and-about players on the map. Overall, that has not panned out too well just yet, but still very early on in her implementation into pro play, so we'll probably see that evolve quite a bit, as we're going to see beastcoast play evolve. Now that they've got the first pick of the round here, moving in, taking out loading, that's all going to be because of Alec there, making the right foot forward, allowing for beastcoast to take library control just in the first minute of the round.
Yeah, Alec changing things up in his aggression as well. Be changing from that vertical grip over to the angled grip on the G36C. So just give him a little bit more pop when it comes to those close range engagements. Able to get his gun up a little bit faster, and that can definitely make the difference. beastcoast begin breaking down walls now as they're looking to try and get some control over the office space, but they haven't really gotten a beat on Nyx, and he'll make that known. So he'll take down Alec early on here. The cross angle working his way from office to library hallway. Too much to deal with currently. beastcoast, though, got a couple of cutoffs around here to try and deal with these Mirage members, but they've done a bang-up job of slowly walking this back instead. We held up inside a Solarium right now, and beastcoast are going to have to find a different way to try and break this up. It'll be Sippin right now. Launches one concussion in and hops inside a bathroom. Has one to his right as well here, and swing this directly into a frag. Oh no, Nyx will get caught off guard as the stuns begin to pour in. They'll finally be able to take control of Solarium, but Mirage have wasted a decent amount of time.
The Zofia play still being too powerful for Mirage to get into the way of here, so beastcoast will carve their way forward once again. mainly because of the exploits of Sippin and, of course, the great support coming in from his teammates. Also going to see the mirror window opened up inside of the site as a result of that. And remember, all this being done with still around a minute left in the time bank here for the Beast Coast players. So not only do they have the advantage, they've got a good 20-30 seconds to try and scramble Mirage around the site, or even better, as we can see for Anthony, outright get the kills on them from these top-down angles to make that execute that much easier. A direct trade here going on between two players as Benji moves in to take out Sippin. Somewhat saves Thomas's life, but I'm unsure if they're going to be able to actually retrieve him at any point. The plant is already going down on the site itself as Jay goes for that. Bozo translating now the second kill as he confirms Thomas, and we'll see Benji move in, try to clutch this one out in the 1v3. There we go. Jay shuts it down, and once more, Beast Coast are having a field day here when it comes to their attacking side on Chalet, having no problems whatsoever working their way in. The great use and the great early clears coming in here, and that on top of the excellent Zofia play that we were constantly getting from Sippin to open things up as far as entries are concerned. All those factors playing together. We've normally got Beast Coast at a 5v3 or better by that point in the round by the time they move on to the site, so it should be no surprise to the folks at home that they are ultimately winning the executes, with the odds being so far in their favor. Mirage, like I said before, though, having that site play out 2 times in a row closer to the kitchen without having much success, they're going to move on from that. They're not going to want to try and waste a third round on it, so they'll go upstairs and see if things will play better for them on a site that apparently, according to Stokes' statistics, has not had a single defensive-sided win come out so far in this stage, just as of yet. We do have the tactical timeout coming in for Mirage as well. Quite obviously, they need a moment to compose themselves here, as this is very much not the way they expected this game to go. Even with the defensive-sided start, they are down 0-3, and be honest, without putting up too much of a fight inside of most of these rounds, they've gone handily the way of Beast Coast. They need to rethink their strategy in a very, very big way. So, as we continue to wait out this timer, and more importantly, wait to get back into the game, pause is going to conclude. Mirage is going to find what they need to change up inside of this game to potentially improve their own chances. We're going to see Alibi go back, or Loading rather, go back onto the Alibi. Unsure if he's going to stick with it, however, as he did 6-pick away from this the last time it was brought in. Save from that, everything is remaining mostly the same. I believe we are going to have the smoke added in there for Dream as well. And you could say very much the same thing for the attacking operator lineup. Overall, Mirage is going to change up the strategy with regards to placements more than anything, not necessarily so much in regards to operator lineup. Just a few minor shifts over here to allow them back into the fold and potentially make a winning change. That just makes their players more comfortable, and hopefully will make these early rounds a bit more palatable more than anything, as that is the part of the game where Beast Coast is 100% controlling things right now. Mirage, their extended setups, the utility is getting torn apart just a minute or so into the round, and if they're not losing the position, the loss of that position usually comes just a few seconds later, oftentimes accompanied by the player that was holding its death as well. So a rough time at the moment in the early round here from Mirage. They need to try and get a grasp on it, as if not, the late round play, the players in the site, those anchors, for the most part, aren't going to have much of a chance here. They're constantly having to fight back from 3v5. So here we go. Beast Coast out on the map once again. Let's see if this attacking prowess is going to continue to show itself just as strongly as it had been in previous rounds.
Well, thank you so much for the film, my friend. I really appreciate it. And sorry for you guys at home. I know it's probably been a little bit distracting today, but a lot of the IT problems finally affected me and my new setup. So big apologies, guys, as it's kind of been something I've been having to deal with throughout the day. But either way, let's get back into the game, because that's what matters. Beast Coast is currently up 3-0. Count it. 3-0 against Mirage right now. And they're looking pretty solid, at least from what I've been able to piece together from my time shutting down my computer and turning it back on. So, you know, we're back in the seat, and that's all that matters. Let's jump back into this action, as Beast Coast will be handling Solarium currently.
Yeah, Sippin once more on Overwatch right now. He has not been called into the building just as of yet to fulfill the entry duties that he has been in the previous rounds, but still keeping good Overwatch in the event that his teammates closer for the Solarium room are going to be able to potentially force a rotate out of someone to move into the bathroom, and that will potentially cause a cross angle, which Sippin can get a kill from. But not lining up for these guys at this point. You're actually going to see Alec hop right into Solarium, take the early control for themselves in a risky play, as you can see here. I was worried about as he was going in, but everything looked all clear. That's until we see those shots move in, and once again, my fears were brought right back to the surface as Beast Coast do get access to Solarium. Dream not able to catch it as one repelled player sneaks right in, and that's going to be a lot of map control the Beast Coast can use if they're able to successfully leverage it from this point forward, as that'll be the only problem for the player that moves in.
Absolutely. They got plenty of time to be able to do this as well, and some solid marks on where these frags could possibly land. This could be super damaging to Mirage overall as well. Anthony, The long arm, the initial frag, it's only going to get rid of the shield. Not much damage dealt to these Mirage members either. They've been able to find some safe harbor and operate around that for the time being. But finally, Beast Coast, they'll strike true. They'll take down Dream as they progress themselves forward through Solarium. That's the smoke down that was trying to deal with this situation. And now they have to deal with Sippin inside a bathroom as well. Beast Coast, they've set themselves up for a plant inside of Master, but can Mirage stop it?
Sippin as well with this LMG has no problem just spamming the pre-fired angle. Has to fall back, unfortunately, due to a Nitro cell, but he deals with that as well. And the teams will trade blows, still keeping Beast Coast in control and now pushing that advantage even further as Alec gets another kill. Thomas isn't even going to be safe in a position that looks secure for him up until we pan to his POV. Now Nyx is left alone in a 1v4, and this is continuing to show us, a massive improvement from Beast Coast over the previous week's performance here, absolutely shutting down Mirage inside of this defensive half. As you can see from these post-plant positions, Nick's not going to have the best of hopes. He starts it out well, downing Alec there on that last peak, but a lot more work to go here, and unfortunately, not a lot of time to do it. About 13 seconds left before he won't be able to counter-defuse, and we won't even get to that point. Anthony finishes things off with the angle against him from the rappel, and that's going to be yet another round, going by the way of Beast Coast.
A very controlled yet calculated offense from Beast Coast. You know, they set up all of that offense very quickly there and also get that player inside of Solarium like you were talking about before, and they use that extremely well moving forward inside of Bathroom, but it really all started to come together once they get the pick onto Dream. Once that smoke's no longer there, they're able to progress forward, and there's truthfully no one that can stop them in that way. You see they get the plant down, immediately set up post-plant, not only for the master position as well as Solarium, but also the cross for Bathroom as well. So they have so many areas that Mirage have to deal with all at the same time, and Mirage, with the low amount of map control they have around that space, they really don't have anything to try and deal with that, especially for the player out towards the master window. It's such a difficult position to try and fight, and Mirage lose so many bodies as well as quite a bit of damage just to that position alone, on top of what Beast Coast was able to do getting inside of the building. So it's 4-0 now for Beast Coast, as we're seeing, simply put, a completely different offensive front put on from them.
Big change-ups on Mirage's operator lineup. They're going to go back to the basement for one more try here. The Thunderbird is obviously back in play for Nyx. And away from that, a couple other big changes too. The Castle being brought in for loading, as well as switch up for Benji one more time as he'll go over towards the Vigil. Save from that, though, nothing groundbreaking on the lineup, but still important notes to pay attention to is loading, specifically adding those Castle barricades into the mix is going to try to slow things down and at a minimum look to eat up one or two extra pieces of Sippin's utilities. He's usually the frontline player for this team, so there's a chance that, while yes, it could be managed quite quickly by Anthony with the hammer in hand, if he's busy on a rappel or otherwise doing something away from Sippin, it could help to eat up at least some of that utility, should it be Jay or Sippin that runs into that first as one of the entries here. Away from that, though, not going to see a whole lot happen again, though, inside of the first 30 seconds of the round. Mainly just Beast Coast setting up for their first aggressive move, and that seems to be leaning quite heavily towards Library and Blue Stairs yet again.
Oh, it absolutely does. Beast Coast trying to warm things up here for round 5. They haven't found their bead just yet. It's Mirage. They're quite attentive to Library. They know that there's some things going on here, some action that could possibly come in the future as well. But instead, they'll insert themselves lower here. Sippin with a very good read on this. You can see the drone bouncing back and forth instead of bar stock, more than likely reading out the positioning of this defender. Nick starting to come under some pressure as well, and multiple fights starting to take place across all of this, but it's Alec to fall first and loading to get away with the bag. This is exactly what Mirage has been looking for, wow. But Beast Coast, they swing back through. They'll pick up loading as well as Benji, and now Mirage, you're actually on the back foot. Only one player to try and prevent this on the mid floor, but do remember, this is not a games and bar defense. Oh no, this is actually downstairs with Mirage having multiple layers to this. They've been trying to deal with the player inside of bar stock now, but this SMG-11 in close range could be a tear. Oh no, Tommy, he'll shoot right over the head of Sippin, which will lead into the double kill for him.
Even though this round started out promising for Mirage, those hopes were instantly dashed by Beast Coast, and once again, Sippin combining, I believe, with Alec in that specific scenario to find the two openers that Beast Coast had. Alec obviously has since gone down, but still Beast Coast have the initiating advantage to the biggest degree they could expect here. They're actually going to quickly work on opening up the snowmobile garage just so they have a bit of an easier time accessing the site and make sure they have all their crosses covered. The 2v4 still could easily be won here by Mirage if Beast Coast haphazardly rush their way into the site, so You're going to see Beast Coast still trying to check off a couple things here, and there you go. The caution is well warranted, apparently. Dream tries to push his way up main stairs. He'll be caught by Anthony, and now that leaves only Nyx in the fight, and not for very long. Sippin will once again take care of that from the Zofia POV, and that's going to be still a flawless half, continuing to be built up here by Beast Coast.
Yeah, Chalet is an offensive-sided map, but, I mean, with that being said,
today.
Mirage's defense is, it's just not coming together for them. They've really never gotten the lead in such a convincing way that it's forced Beast Coast to play, slow or anything along those lines. In fact, when Beast Coast lose their members, they simply speed up. They just step on the gas and see what they can do to try and, bring it back into their favor or equalize with Mirage time and time again. So very unfortunate for them as they're going to be headed to Master Bedroom, statistically the worst site currently inside of North America for their last defense.
Well, unfortunately for Mirage, every site is the worst site right now. They pretty much have tried them all.
When you put it that way.
Not to be too rude about it, just a good opportunity for a joke there. But either way, Mirage, has yet to find success on any of these sites. They did try this once before, and to be fair, it was quite close, but ultimately Beast Coast still able to work their way in with a good entry potential that has never been stopped throughout this entire half. That entry potential, I think, has been shut down like maybe one time, and even then, it pretty much is immediately traded out a couple seconds later, so I would hesitate to even call that as being stopped at the end of the day. But either way, Mirage has made slight improvements, nowhere near enough for them to put up a palatable scoreline at the halftime, though. At best, they're now going to be looking at a 5-1, and in a realistic scenario, if things continue to go the way they have been, it's very, very possible Beast Coast will claim a 6th round here.
I mean, it's like they're asleep at the wheel right now, if I'm being honest with you. And the reason I say that is because collectively they have 7 kills across the board. That's less than what Sippin has in total right now. Anthony's 2 away from it, Young's 1 away from it. So, when you simply can't get kills on the board for anybody on your team, it's difficult to win a game of Rainbow Six Siege. Let's be honest with you. Yeah, utility is a huge part of Rainbow Six, but if you can't kill anybody, you can't win the video game either. So it's unfortunate for Mirage right now, but it's what they got to deal with, and what Nyx is going to be thinking about for the next 2 minutes and 22 seconds, because Alec's been hitting his mark today, and that's going to be the first blood yet again here in the 6th round.
Not even just Alex, Sippin as well has been brutal when it comes to these opening picks. It's the point I've been really trying to hammer home throughout this half, is Beast Coast is always winning for the most part. I would say in 5 out of 6 of these rounds, they have won the opening battle and have never let go of the trade. In part, I would say this is due to the way Mirage is setting up their extended play. It doesn't really seem like the players are able to trade off of each other so well, so when an aggressive moving player from Mirage ends up getting picked, there's pretty much no opportunity to exchange that in most situations here for Mirage at this point, leaving them always a player or more down by the time Beast Coast is ready to go for the execute. Obviously, it's kind of hard to tell that specifically how the positions are working out for Mirage just because of the POV we get, but that's the kind of vibe that I'm getting right now looking at it. Either way, though, things will continue to devolve here for Beast Coast as they've got that first kill, and I'll be honest, have been pretty quiet since then, mainly working on their drone game and trying to figure out where the rest of these extensions are played from. But their first attempt to push one of the players out of that position is going to fail. Benji counters out Sippin, and we go down to a 4v4. Alec also taking a large amount of damage, too, as he goes under 50. Still with that default causing problems, and Benji now going to be able to lean in to get another one. Jay will be able to trade out onto Benji, finally ending his reign of terror. And Fozo, another kill. It's like you said before. Whenever they start to lose players, they don't slow down, they don't back up, they don't take a moment to think for themselves. They double down, they speed this up, and it may finally be failing on the inside of this round, however. Jay, no, never mind. They outwit Dream instead of just sending the second stairs player out against him. Another one is able to find the effort to push forward, and now Fozo's going to be able to get his teammate back up. Jay's in the fight once again, and it's a 3v1 as Loading will look to clutch this out instead. They already know where he's at as well, so this will be so tough for Loading here. He's got nowhere to move towards. He is getting, as you can see, there's some good intel feed from his teammates, from his teammates there, but his opponents are going to be trying to abuse that a little bit as they suss out the move, but it won't really work. Loading with an opportunity to deny the plant. He should be able to pull that off, and now he just needs to survive for 20 more seconds. A second player going to be found, and all of a sudden Anthony in a very awkward position out on rappel here. Loading may have done it to at least put Mirage with 1 round on the board at the end of the half. In comes the swing, in comes the shutdown to counter it, and Mirage will finally find their footing due to the great efforts of Loading at the end of this round.
See, loading, all you got to do is shrug it off, baby. That's all it is. A 1 versus 3 for the young man. Let's go. Beast Coast. A beautiful, beautiful offensive half. You just got to give loading credit where it's due, especially clutching up in such a convincing way there at the very end. It was basically set up for him to do so as well. The planter, very high in HP. Habana obviously having to get picked up earlier on inside of Solarium. I mean, the stars just aligned for him to get that on the board, but it's something that Mirage desperately needed, especially going into the offensive half. Now, they'll split it at 5-1, but that is definitely the best offense that we've seen out of Beast Coast, for sure. And I'm excited to continue to see this, hopefully. We'll see how their defensive side goes, but again, you got to give credit where it's due, and Beast Coast looked very, very solid in that. It just seemed like they were doing a very good job of playing off of each other's plays there and keeping the playbook pretty open for when Mirage wanted to fight back. Mirage was pretty structured in the way that they wanted to handle things, and Beast Coast did a good job of abusing that with just throwing caution to the wind and just trying to keep things open for themselves.
All right, well, let's see if things will improve for Mirage. Now, a new side means hopefully a refreshed point of view on this match, especially with a big clutch coming out at the end of it. Certainly helped to raise the spirits of Mirage, if anything, going into this second half and what was otherwise looking to be a very brutal matchup for them. And obviously a massive ascension here for Beast Coast, given their performance in the previous weeks here. They'd be feeling themselves to a pretty good extent at this point. Curious to see if that filtered down at all after the loss at the end of the half, but either way, a 5-1 scoreline is certainly something to be celebrated here coming off the attacking side on the map, as now East Coast looks to once again move themselves forward here and take control to get 2 more rounds that are needed to push them over the edge and close out on this match at what would be 7-1.
Slow and steady for Mirage early here. Not really adopting too many angles. They will begin working the north side of the building, so it'll be practically a full clear here. I need to deal with Alec down low as well. He'll be barricading the door towards the wine here for blue, so just going to cut off a rotation. If somebody does try to get downstairs and work that space with him, and it'll be a sound cue if they do want to try and open that back up and just make things a little bit easier for him in that regard. For Mirage overall, though, this has been pretty easy early here as Beast Coast has given up the entirety of this side of the map, but they don't need it in the first place. They need to hold onto this library area, and they've got a lot of different angles in order to abuse that. It'd be absolutely terrifying if that wasn't a hologram, and that was actually Yana inside of the building. That just jumped in my mind for a second if Thomas just committed the fake there. But either way, Anthony will begin moving himself forward, and oh man, he's going to take so much damage, but he'll trade it out for his own life. Anthony gets knocked down to 25 HP. It's blood money as he'll take out Nyx.
Yeah, that's going to bring it down to a 5v4. Once again, Beast Coast getting the advantage, and same point I was making before, no trades to be seen here from anyone on Mirage. Obviously, that was a very detached fight from the rest of the execute, so not the greatest example, but still the point I wanted to make from the other half as well, as Anthony's going to be able to survive and now thrive, also getting himself a second kill before eventually, as you can see there, getting traded out by loading. Sippin does have the angle, another player towards top blue, but cannot prioritize it right now as he's getting pinched by 2 others. Thomas and Benji suddenly taking control here now for Mirage. Beast Coast looked to have it a second ago, but no longer, as that player at top library is isolated out. Another one will falter as well, and that leaves just Fozo and Alec in here for the clutch at a 2v3.
Fozo continuing to work his area as well. We could see him go for something later on here, but now it's more than likely going to be Alec first, as he is the only one inside of sight. Silhouette's getting away from me every once in a while, but Alec has indeed made it to the main stairs here. Lower half as well, so be protected for the time being. Don't necessarily know if there's an air jab inside of that space that he'll have to worry about. Doesn't have any impacts in order to do so. So Fozo, he's going to be at the helm of a lot of this defense. He'll be able to get the initial one, and he gets back into bar stock as well. Very low HP, so immediately hit the prone. But as you said, he needs Alec. Can Alec land his shots? He'll finally get loading shut down, but it's all up to Benji. Very minimal time, and Benji also has the case. Alec needs to work this into his favor, though. Again, no impact to be able to abuse this verticality, so he's going to have to try and use something else. And Benji, he's already halfway through a plant. Alex trying to play for spatial control instead because he doesn't know if he has it, but obviously that'll be told to him now as the plant goes off. Benji set up to try and secure Mirage's second round, but what can Beast Coast, more importantly, Alec, do about it?
Alec going to give away the transition down to the first floor, but that was because he had an angle onto Benji. Didn't even realize it. Missed the opportunity, though, and Benji survives. Both players now at low HP, but ultimately, Alec is going to win it out as he downs out. Benji even takes him a second to realize it, but Alec will win it, and that's Beast Coast in a very, very close round, pushing themselves up on a map and match point just 1 round into the second half.
I mean, some got it and some don't. And Alec has definitely got it today. The guy is looking absolutely explosive in every sense of the word. Every time we get on his perspective, he's constantly taking out these Mirage members, playing for that space, and just playing it to the best of his ability. Obviously, that round could have went a little bit better overall for Beast Coast, but if it comes down to it, Alec still has that clutch gene, and he's able to work it out. That's very unfortunate for Benji there as well. He just didn't really have any information to work off of. Alec could have came from above him, from either one of the doors, worked any of those different angles, and he just unfortunately gives him a really low amount of a really low amount of room to breathe, and that just gives the upper hand to Alec. He's able to work his angles, get all the way in towards bar stock, and find that frag. Very well done from him, especially in the way of just sending it at the end there, because you have to try and get those kind of, you know, engagements going for yourself inside of those 1v1s. So very well done from him, and now Beast Coast up to 6-1.
Aligns pretty well with the playstyle we've been seeing out of Beast Coast throughout the rest of this match, though. Just send it is honestly a good way to describe Beast Coast play here, as you said a couple times. Even when they were starting to lose a couple players inside of specifically attacking situations, but we've seen it on the defensive first round there too. When they start to lose players, they don't care. They just dive right in, continue to take additional fights despite the potential risk that will have on their own lives as well. And pretty much most of these situations, it's been coming out in their favor. So a really interesting take on Siege today here from Beast Coast, and it is certainly working against Mirage at a minimum. I'm very curious to see the next performance from Beast Coast after this match. However, they're potentially going up against someone like SSG or a similar team, as I want to see how this works against them in that type of setting. Either way, though, it's working beautifully today against Mirage. A 6-1 scoreline, looking to push it up to 7. And they've got 5 opportunities to do so here, as Mirage is looking to crawl back from the depths of this scoreline and take us to OT. That's another thing here. Mirage now needing to work their way up to OT. They have no opportunity here to close this out in regulation anymore and get the full 3 points. The best they're looking at for this match is 2 now.
Yes, indeed. And actually, Beast Coast's next match is going to be pretty interesting. They're going to play against the Sonics next week, and then after that, the Astralis. Yeah, and also we're going to get SSG versus TSM next week. So no spoilers, guys, no spoilers, but that one's going to be pretty interesting. So
that's a big test right there about if this play is going to stay consistent going into their next performance.
Yeah, most definitely. I think the Sonics are the one to test that as well. I think it's a perfect matchup. We'll have to see how it goes, but we have to get through this one first. And if Beast Coast can take this in 7-1 fashion, I mean, I'm definitely more convinced than I was. I won't say I'm fully convinced that this team is going to become something spectacular, but they're definitely starting to, you know, change things up and look a heck of a lot better than they once did. And speaking of which, this round looking more of the same. Mirage, we've gotten some control. They've at least been able to create a lot of different lines of sight to try and abuse the positions of these Beast Coast members all the way up top, but honestly, it's not really working out too much. They've been able to set up some lines of sight as well here to try and abuse, but at the halfway mark, Mirage have given up, well, rather, Beast Coast have given up basically nothing. No HP off of anyone. Alec is still existing inside of Fireplace Hall currently as well. They've done a great job of avoiding Mirage, and this has made Mirage have to try and search for them instead. It's looking to be a Solarium take here, but is the Beast Coast members ready?
Well, Jace, even if he's not ready, he's going to hear it in a second here as they'll be trying to open up the wall that's supporting his position. Jay will just smoke it back out. The first kill, is going to be traded pretty quickly. Explosives on both sides that leads to the death of Thomas and Anthony back-to-back as both players take each other out. Jay overpeaks just a tad, though, gives himself away to a pre-fire angle set up by Dream. Dream pushes the advantage into the favor of Mirage for one of the first times that we've seen so far in this game. That's also going to allow for him to go for a plant. Nyx looking to cut things off here now from the library hallway, and so far, that's working out pretty well. He'll lose his position, but the main push from Solarium still is as strong as ever. Dream with one more kill on top of the ones he's already gotten. He's just Fozo alive here, and Loading will quickly take care of him as well. A much more solid execute coming in for Mirage that time to maybe make this match a bit more competitive than it's going down to.
Yeah, especially for Dream there. The early frags once they get the breach open, and then when he gets the case down as well, starts pushing himself forward deeper into sight to start applying more pressure to the Beast Coast members. At top floor, it's time and time again, no matter how much utility they try and put on that space, it's just difficult fights either way you slice it. You know, either from library or from the Solarium side, it's just a lot of long angles that you have to try and fight back from, and it's not the fact that Beast Coast didn't have opportunities there to shut down Mirage's game game plan. I mean, Dream peaked a lot of different things there. It's just the fact that they couldn't get those gunfights won in their favor. So unfortunate for them, but very well done from Dream to work that in the way that he did. Now, though, long road ahead of them. That's only the first of 5 stops here just to guarantee overtime. If they want the win, it's even longer. Beast Coast, though, they're not going to keep things easy. They're heading down to Kitchen.
And the ultimate issue here for Mirage is still going to be that very, very lackluster opening half on the defense. It costed them such a huge round count to begin with. East Coast is just one step away from closing this out, and they will be there the entire rest of this game unless Mirage can run the full gauntlet of those 5 rounds that Stokes was just talking about. 4 more to go here at the beginning of round number 9, and we'll see if they can continue to crawl back into this as Beast Coast changes up their site. They're going to go, I believe, into Kitchen for this defense here. Yeah, Kitchen as well as Dining to see if they can close out the map on this one. The setup is still going to be prioritized upstairs as they're still going to look to delay time and prevent Mirage from taking this part of the map to stop the top-down angles from being opened up, but obviously the site will vary quite a bit. It will be on a whole different floor. Here comes Mirage, though, out and spawns. Let's see what they're going to prioritize first, as more than likely they'll make the usual entries in from the library and put some pressure on the Solarium Master Repel.
Well, the biggest change coming in, the most obvious one as well, is going to be the Lion here for loading. So we'll see if that changes up their playstyle going forward here. It's more than likely going to assist them quite a bit, especially when it gets more close to that execute time, is because Beast Coast have been very, very busy when it comes to movement. Been trying to get to different angles, work their space really well, and try and limit Mirage in almost every different angle that they can possibly find. And this is going to slow that down quite a bit, especially if they have good drone intel to come into play with that as well. They'll more than likely be able to capitalize on this in a lot of different ways and try and get these kills. Mirage, they've already worked their way in towards Fireplace, already looking towards the kitchen wall to try and break this up. It'll be an impact out, and actually Dream starting to move forward. Young is actually going to take down one. Jay with the second one, but it's trades back and forth. The 3 versus 3 right now as the EE1D goes out. Benji knows that someone's around this area. He'll gun down Anthony, who's prone, trying to play out his life inside of kitchen, but the trades continue. Thomas will get downed as well, but he'll get picked back up because Nyx does not want this to be a 1 versus 1, as the case is still down. Tommy, though, he's the last remaining, and he has that ARX. He'll be able to deal some serious damage if anybody peeks him, but he needs somebody to peek him. Very low HP, and either one of these guns can deal the damage necessary to take him down. The good news is, lots of time on his hands, John, so we'll see what he can do.
Lots of times, but limited potential here. All 10 drones are alive and running at the moment here. And oh no, we can see he spends too much time fiddling around at the same angle, ultimately giving away the intel, as we can see here with the pings going out and allowing for him to be shut down when he finally tries to cross out. Beast Coast shut it down, and in convincing fashion here today against Mirage. 7-2 is going to be the scoreline as they finally turn around what's been a rough season to start things out so far, but is finally looking up a bit more here. A 7-4 victory over X set to start. 2 7-1 losses versus TSM and Oxygen, and now a 7-2 victory versus Mirage.
Very well done from them, and congratulations to Beast Coast, as you're saying. I mean, this is no small feat for them. This is a big change up in the lineup overall, and to finally get some wins on the board, especially against a team like Mirage, you got to be happy about that one. But for Mirage, John, I'll be honest, I'm pretty disappointed. I did not expect a 7-2 here, and you know, there's not much more to be said. I mean, I expect a lot out of this team, especially given their coach and the likes of Christian and the way that they've progressively gotten better throughout the stages. But right now, they seem very lost. I mean, even the very minimal, and I'm telling you, minimal occasions where they had an advantage, they still weren't able to exploit it in a way that Beast Coast couldn't come back. It just looked like Beast Coast dominance time and time again, all for those 2 rounds. But hey, you can tell me how you feel.
You know, a very aggressively set up Mirage for the large majority of that defensive half that ultimately usually led to 1 to 2 of their players getting picked off in the early round, and we never really saw that ever getting changed up or ever really getting changed in terms of its formula to support those extended players to a better degree, to allow for them to either stay alive longer or at least allow for them to get traded if they went down. It was just a whole stack of dominoes getting knocked off the chain before the round even really got started or got close to the execute. And as a result of that, for that entire half, like I said during the game, Mirage was always fighting from the back foot, and that ultimately led to the 5-1 scoreline, which unfortunately made this match just a bit too impalatable. That'll do it for myself and Stokes here today. We're going to throw it back down to Valley and the boys one final time to break this match down.
Thank you so much, Blue and Stokes. Great commentary, by the way. But ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the day. Beast Coast came out with a big win on Chalet against Mirage, and Everyone on the desk, listen, we gotta eat the crow right now. Beast Coast won. All of our predictions were incorrect, and they put on a great showing. And shout out to Sippin, a player that I said I want to see pop off this game. The man did it all.
From getting 7-1'd in 2 consecutive play days to 7-2ing a team, it almost seems like the Beast Coast revenge tour is about to get underway in full swing. But I will say it again, I didn't think Mirage was going to be in this position at all. I had more faith or confidence that they'd have some way to at the very least scrape together more than just 2 rounds against a Beast Coast team that very clearly had signs of weakness against both TSM and OXG. So this is actually a really big deal that Mirage got trounced this bad.
Yeah, talk about a glow up, eh? Beast Coast looking so good in this matchup. Sippin having a great game. Alec having a great game. Mirage kind of all over the place. We'll dive into it more in a bit. But yeah, that was a bit of a slaughter to end the day here.
Well, I mean, let's talk about it, Jesse. First things first, right? So one of the big talking points, I mean, listen, let's call it what it is. Nick's dying early in the row that he's been playing on has definitely hurt the team as well. The team just wasn't hot as well. So when it comes to everything that we did see from Mirage, I mean, what is there to pick apart?
So I think in the last game that Mirage played, in Playday 4, you know, Nyx was still struggling on defense. He'd gotten better on attack, being that entry. He wasn't in as many opening engagements on attack, so that didn't really factor in too much. But we saw it on the defense in the last matchup, and we saw it on the defense again today. On this roam, he's consistently way too far away from the rest of his teammates, taking gunfights that he doesn't need to, and just not coordinating well with the squad. I'm going to say the same thing I said earlier in the stage, is that it's okay if you're dying first. I said this about NVK. It's okay if you're going in and dying first, but you have to be traded. You have to be with your teammates. You have to get that counter trade off. And then you're left in a 4v4. Your teammates are okay. When you're out there dying all alone on the roam, you don't have those teammates to trade you. You're going to end up in the disadvantage for your team. And it's kind of your fault at the end of the day. You know, it is a team effort. It is a team decision on where players are put around the map. But Nyx is out of position too often for my liking, and they've got to fix that because it has been a consistent problem since day one.
Especially if you're in such a vital role, right? But Jacob, the train is back on track. Okay, Sippin popped off, but we saw Alex show up as well, man. It felt good, right?
Yeah, no, I think some of these players are trying to live up to the potential and the hype that we gave them back before this stage even began. Sippin kind of playing into the skill that we know that he's got. It just requires the rest of his team to give him the capacity to do that, and I do think that they did that pretty well. You know, we haven't been able to talk about this since they beat Xhead, but it's not a case where Jay needs to be playing and getting a whole bunch of kills. He's backline support. He's not supposed to be doing that, and he's doing fine in his role regardless. He's getting walls open. He's creating space and giving both Young Alec and Sippin a chance to do it. It just kind of seems like Young Alec can really only do good against, how shall I say this politically correct, subpar teams is what it seems like.
Bad teams? Okay, so also...
Hey, I didn't say that.
But also, we got to take a look at this. Alec and Anthony, okay, is seeing Anthony do well just puts a smile on my face every single time. 100% cost in a row that he plays with 2 opening kills, undefeated when it came to that, and Alec was 4-2 on his own? That is spicy. But this is the worry that I was talking about with Jesse as well. Jesse talked about how important Dream is if he stays alive in a game. And in order to do that, your front line is going to have to basically soften the load for you, right?
Right. 100%.
But when you have roamers out there that are dying early, it leads to players like Dream and Thomas on their rows to really pick up more of that slack. And it's just, it's way harder than it should be, right?
Yeah, and I think it all comes down to positioning. I think round 4 was like a perfect example of this, Valley, where it's a master defense. A lot of the roamers are over around sort of the trophy side of the map, over by library and such, I should say. And then they're coming in from Solarium, and Dream is the only one in position to deny the plant. He loses his opening engagement to Alec, which is tough, but Alec is kind of a gunner, so that happens sometimes. And nobody else is in position to trade. Nobody else is in position to stop the plants. We end up seeing loading go for like a crazy swing, like through the entire bomb site. And you know, you can't be relying on this type of stuff, right? There have to be more people working together to deny that plant wherever the push is coming from. You've got to identify that quickly, and you've got to get people that side of the map to slow the attackers coming in. It can't be just Dream. It cannot be Dream all alone dying for the opening pick because he's the only person in position to stop the defuse kit from going down. There has to be more support there, and I believe this is 2 games in a row now where Dream has been the top performer from Mirage, which great, but that's not what the team dynamic should be producing.
Right.
Yeah, that is absolutely crazy. So, fellas, we have a community poll question. Now, speaking of which, Dream is one of the undisputed, R6 NAL bomb plant GOATs. Can Jay surpass Dream in plants this game? I wonder who did better.
I wonder who did.
Yeah, the fact that we had like 5 attacking round wins in a row for Beast Coast probably gives Jay a bit of an edge there.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, Jacob, I mean, I could ask you, but you know the deal already. Dream actually won in a landslide victory, and rightfully so, right? Dream is the man that everyone loves here, okay? Yeah, he might be married, but he really belongs to us. That's our boyfriend. That's our husband. 78% to 22%. Shout to Jay. Good luck next time. He's going to get some clout that's going to help him in those polls. But, fellas, I think we're getting better at this. So it's the end of the day, so it's time to point out who the MVP is. So I personally feel like, okay, Bolo had a good game, but I think it's going to go to Foltz. What do you guys think?
I think Bolo was higher rate. No, yeah, Bolo was higher rated than Foltz on the day from a stats point of view, but I believe the one who had the most or the highest rating overall, you're going to be shocked by this, was actually Kansan. So I think he's also in the running today.
I think you guys are both overlooking this game we just watched. I mean, Sippin and Alec just absolutely destroyed Mirage, and I've got to give it to one of those.
I'll put
two.
it this way. I think the stats Beast Coast had against Mirage are good, but if you can pull out like a 1.4 or better rating against a really good opponent, I think that speaks more to the impact that you created. So I'd give it to someone like a Kansan or a Yeti or a Foltz or, yeah, any of those guys, honestly. More so than the Beast Coast game. Not to overlook their performance, I just think they deserve it more.
True. I think Foltz and Bolo are definitely my top 2, though. You guys do have some great points, so whenever we can, let's throw up the MVP on the screen to see who it is today. It has been crazy so far, by the way, because, what is it? Like, we had Vertical in the running, and today is going to be the one and only entry gunner. That guy for Space Station Gaming is going to be Foltz, who is just incredible. He popped off today, fellas.
Yeah, and it's big, too, because he was so strong in that entry role, which is where we've really been critical of him before this game started. You see that 5 opening picks. He was 2 and 7 on entry before today, so those 5 kills are going to be huge to increase his opening stat. And yeah, I mean, amazing day. Hot and cold, a little quieter for SSG, but someone's right there to fill the spot.
That's the scariest thing about Space Station Gaming. If Hot and Cold has a colder day than usual, which is still better than a lot of people's best, you still have Foltz, okay?
Yeah.
You still have Rampy. This team is stacked, man. All right, so Jacob, it's time for the standings. So
all right. There's actually a surprise on this, by the way, once we get to it. Something that you're going to look at and you're going to be like, it makes sense numerically, but doesn't make any sense realistically. So when we get to it, you'll see.
Does it have to do with the last series that we just saw?
Probably.
All right, so whenever we can, let's take a look at the standings right now. I'm guessing Beast Coast is in, what, 5th place?
Over Dark Zero.
Yes. Things got spicier. So now when it comes to points as well, Jesse, what are we looking at? This race is ridiculous, by the way.
Yeah, the race to the bottom is still very hotly contested. 3 teams now tied. Notably, Xset didn't play a game today, so obviously they couldn't have increased their point total at all. But Mirage losing today, Astralis as well. They're both going to be 1-0-0-4. Not great. Dark Zero, a little worrying, I think, at first glance. Keep in mind, they didn't play either of the first 2 days. So they are behind the entire league in terms of games played. So that is a bit of a disadvantage. They've only played 3. Most other teams, in fact, every other team has played either 4 or 5 games at this point. So something to keep in mind. Dark Zero still, I think, playing pretty solidly throughout the stage. And I expect them to pick it up and jump a couple of spots when they start playing more of their games.
I have to say this, by the way. This is really funny. And Jacob, you could take it. Remember when Super was making those tweets last season about Sonics as a top 4 team? And everyone laughed, right? Sonics so far, stage 1, I was looking at it just now. Stage 1, Sonics, top 2. Stage 2, what were they, top 3? And right now they're top 3 again, Jacob?
Yeah,
Insane.
man. Hey, I love how they've managed to turn that team into, from a project that they were kind of seeing if it was going to work or not, into immediate top 4 contenders and went to a major their first time only last month, which is crazy. It's super cool. But if I can say one thing about the race to the bottom, just for a second, I did not foresee these 3 teams being here. I did kind of think Xset had the chance to maybe be contending, but still, the fact that Mirage and Astralis have now played a majority of their stage and have lost most of the games that they were going to have means that they only have 1 game's worth of leeway to still potentially finish with a season above 500 because they only play 4 games. They're actually only going to be able to get to like 4-4 if they win their next 3, so they would be exactly at 500, and that still might not be enough if the other team between Astralis and Mirage also wins all of their games. So we have no idea who's going to be at the bottom. We have no idea who's going to relegation. I certainly know that we will be entertained by who it is because we're not going to know for a while. But if you're a coaching staff or a team right now, you got to be just like, well, what do you do if you're down this bad?
I mean, Beast Coast, what if they upset Sonics and tie them for top 3? What if XZ beats Dark Zero and Dark Zero winds up in the bottom 3? That's insane. Let's take a look at the schedule, actually, because we're going to find out which teams might be on that chopping block to get leapfrogged once again. Match number 1. Okay, first off, shout out to Faces, shout out to Ubisoft. You guys are giving us some games that slap first thing of the day. Space Station Gaming versus TSM. And Jacob, which one looks spicy to you right now?
Yeah, the first one is good. I'm looking and seeing XZ versus Dark Zero might be a little bit like, I'm low-key hyped for that one. That's more tantalizing than it actually seems at first glance, so that one should be good. And then, wow, so according to the standings on the previous graphic, Mirage and Astralis were the bottom 2 teams, and now they're facing each other next week. That's really trying to stay out of last place. Hey, you said it, not me.
Let's go, Jesse. What do you like?
I mean, Mirage Astralis, I think, will be a hugely important game. There's so many stakes, so much pressure on that matchup, so that's going to be huge. XZ obviously in that race as well against Dark Zero. We'll see if they stay down there. But Space Station TSM, I mean, come on. That is a historic game. That is the one that fans in North America look to every stage. So, yeah, of course I'm excited for that one.
Okay, we all love Dark Zero, right? But what if XZ upsets them?
It's happened before.
It's happened before.
Stage 1.
Exactly, the same team. So listen, for all of you at home, you hear the excitement in our voices. We want you to get excited as well. We don't have any more Super Weeks, so we'll catch you guys on September 29th. But Jesse, you know it's about that time, man. It's time to close out the desk. It's been fun. We ended the day with the shocker, man. It was a crazy game. What do you have to say to the viewers out there, and give them a reason why they should tune in next week?
Well, again, I think the one thing that we've learned is that in NA, anybody can win. I mean, Beast Coast coming with such a dominant game against Mirage after they looked so poor in the last couple of weeks. You know, it really does speak to how much teams can improve week to week, game to game. They get better and better and better. So even for these bottom 3 teams right now, for Mirage, for XZ, and for Astralis, they're currently in the hot seat, but there is still potential to improve. There's still a long season ahead of us. We've still got a couple more play days. We're only halfway through, right? And halfway means that we're still got halfway to go. So there's still a lot of potential for these teams. The NAL is just getting started, and the stakes are getting higher and higher every play day. Veli, next week, it's going to be a good one.
It's just getting started. You heard that, Jacob? Jacob, how you feeling today, man? You had a good day?
Yeah, so far, I think the interesting part about this as we talk about the bottom 4 teams, something to bear in mind for OXG is that they don't play next week. They're currently sitting at the top of the league. They're 4-1. That loss today was bad, but it's not the end of the world. Except it is, because they don't play next week, and they're only 3 points above both SSG and the Sonics. So if somehow both of those guys end up winning, then suddenly OXG's very secure spot at the top they had back at the beginning of the stage disseminates entirely. They're not going to be that confident or that secure in their own position anymore, and it's going to turn into a bloodbath for the top 3 as much as it is for the bottom 3. So make sure you don't miss next week, because OXG are going to be sitting on their couches with bated breath, hoping both SSG and the Sonics don't win next Wednesday.
Listen, you guys heard from Jesse. We're almost halfway there and things are just starting to heat up. And you heard from Jacob. No one's spot is safe. The NAL is the Game of Thrones. We don't know who's going to take that top spot, but we know that whenever someone does, it's going to be crazy, and it's going to happen at the end of the stage. So starting next week, we're going to see, coming back again next week, we're going to have some banger matchups, especially that first one. So you definitely don't want to miss it. Once again, big shout out to Ubisoft, big shout out to Faceit, big shout out to the desk and the commentators. Jesse, Jacob, I love you guys. I wish I could hug you and kiss you right now, but we're going to shut things down. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll see you guys next week for some more North American Rainbow Six Siege. Take it easy.